Hey, welcome into Small Town Charm. We got Chris here. We got Mike. My name's Daniel. And this, as Chris just wanted me to make sure I mention, is episode 20. We made it somehow through 20 episodes of this. And to be honest, when we started this show, I didn't know if we'd make it past episode 3, maybe? I mean, we did film like one whole episode that was like 2 hours long.
Yeah.
May never see the light of day. I mean, I edited, it was done.
I think we should release it.
Someday we will. There's a few things that I think I would like to wait to finish up before we release it. But yeah, maybe we will. But as I promised in the last episode, I want to keep talking about the recent zoning ordinance vote that happened in the Board of Commissioners here in Nolensville. For those of you who maybe somehow skipped the last episode, we just talked about how basically the Board of Commissioners voted to bring CD5 back, the thing that we've spent several episodes talking about.
Right.
They basically did it. They called it something different, and they changed a few numbers here or there, but by and large, we got what we wanted. We, meaning those of us who wanted that CD5 thing to be brought back. And so if you missed episode 19, I'd encourage you to go back and listen or watch, because it gives you a quick overview. It's only about 30 minutes long. And if you do nothing else, at least you can catch up on the big points of what happened in that meeting. In this episode, I want to talk a little bit more about the nuance of the conversation that happened. And the reason why I think this is important, I don't want to nitpick anything because I think that is boring, but I do think it's important, especially because we're early on in what I will call this administration, this group of commissioners that will be working together for basically the next 2 years, year and a half-ish, on issues. This has really been the first big contentious issue that they've had to tackle in that group, and you get kind of clues into how people operate.
Yep.
And how they're going to do things. And I think that will inform those of us who may choose to get involved a little bit more in the government or do public comments or just going to meetings or trying to encourage certain things to go a certain way. And I hope that anyone watching or listening would be one of those people too. I mean, the more people who are involved, the better, I think, in government. But that can inform kind of how you choose to go about engaging with our Board of Commissioners and how they choose to make decisions. The first kind of low-hanging fruit in my mind, Chris, you mentioned this in the previous episode, the idea of, in some public comments, a member of the Planning Commission basically used our current zoning as the kind of like the foundation of what the argument should stem from.
Sure.
And what the point you made was basically, you didn't say this part, but I've heard this said before, is not only did all 5 commissioners run on some form of changing our current zoning, but all of the people who ran that didn't get elected,
yep,
they all ran on it too. There was nobody in the race for the last 4 years, actually, either race that has come up since we changed the charter, that has not said the zoning needs to change.
So that's a total of like 11 candidates.
Yep.
So the idea that like our current zoning should be a starting point of like who's given up what, someone else in the NAGS group loves to use these phrases and mansplain like what strawman arguments are. Mm-hmm. The ultimate strawman argument is the starting point for our negotiation should be where we are now.
No,
right?
the ultimate one is this election was a mandate.
Like, well, yeah.
CD5 was not like that. Write it down. That me off so bad because it's like if I would have known that there was a possibility of losing the CD5 form during this election, I would have made it a way bigger deal. Like this was just like, oh, we're gonna discuss density, and if you noticed, like when we did discuss density on CD5, Haley was able to bring it down to 18 without a problem, and the only 2 commissioners that voted against bringing it down to 18 were Kate and Jessica.
Right.
Joe and Derek voted down to bring because density, at the end of the day, density is. It matters to a point, and it's an adjustable number. So if it doesn't work at 18, you can adjust it. And like the idea that this entire election was a mandate for less density. If that was the case, what the hell are they doing? Rezoning CD2 to double up the density because of lot sizes. Well, like why are they taking CD3L and turning it into CD4 and taking buffers away from the triangle? Like you're increasing density everywhere.
We know it wasn't a mandate. Like they love to make this point that it's like this was a referendum and like it just
drives me nuts, dude.
Stuff. But it wasn't. Like, look at the numbers, right? Like, they won the election over Lisa by, like, 200 votes. Mm-hmm. Like, that's not a referendum. A referendum is 69, what was it? 72 to 28. That's a real referendum.
You can run it down to 69,
and you can book it down.
Nice.
But I just think it's, like, they keep throwing that out there as if the amount of people that voted for Jessica and Kate somehow represents what the entire town wanted.
Dude, there was a public comment. That talked about the election being a mandate by the voters, and then in the same exact comment, that person went and discarded a petition with 700 signatures on it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's cute. Like, they're wearing purple shirts, and they had a petition. Like, dude, like, the election was won by 200 votes. Like, I have a petition with 700...
Correct.
Like, with 700 votes on it. Like, what are you... Like, that makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I'll at least give them a little bit, and I will say maybe 200 voters had a mandate. Like, 200... The difference between who won and who lost, that is who had a mandate over density. But in terms of, like, who won or lost and like what that was really about, like it's just crap. Like and they also, every time they make the argument, I just have to say this because it's so true. Like they fail to ever bring up the fact that entire election, what was going on in the background, was a smear campaign against the other commissioner who was up for election. Like running like false stories on the news, sending those stories to her employer, like all of these awful things that they were doing to her.
Allegedly.
Yeah. No, it's not allegedly. I mean,
well,
that's true.
We don't know who did it.
Right.
But like allegedly it
wasn't one of her supporters.
Yeah.
It wasn't somebody that wanted her to win, that's for sure.
But it's just crazy to me that they think that election was won fairly, number one. Or that it was like this landslide of a result.
I'm so
that you can somehow draw the conclusion that like this is what Nolensville wanted all along.
Dude, I'm so loaded for bear for this conversation because like the idea of this being a mandate and the entire like you have to also understand that they delayed this vote. This vote should have happened in like September. Mm-hmm. They delayed this vote on a premise that not enough people knew about it. Like we haven't informed all the property owners. We haven't had enough public engagement. We haven't had we haven't been to the farmers market and got everybody's opinion. And then it's like all these voters made this decision and there was a mandate. Like shut the hell up.
And then look what happened right after the election. All of a sudden the tune changed. And now it was, we need to get this passed. We need to quit debating this.
Special meetings being
called. We need
to
quit like waiting to get this vote. I think two of the leaders of NAG made public comments and specifically said like, pass the zoning ordinance. This needs to get voted on. Which one is it?
That's the crap that drives me nuts. It's like the speak out of vote. Like when I'm down, let's prolong this until I'm up. When I'm up, let's smash my way through. And that's literally what got like Caitlyn. I know that for a fact that's what got Caitlyn involved, and then that's what drives me to go harder and harder. Is when you speak out of both sides of your mouth and only when it's convenient to you. So like saying like we can't vote on this because not enough people know about it, to like you have to vote it my way because it was a mandate that was won by 200 votes, but there's a 700 signature petition out there that doesn't matter. At some point it just starts to boil my blood, and I'm like, you can't keep doing this. You can't keep talking only when it benefits you in a certain way. Like if you want to play by the rules have to be consistent throughout the process. Sure. You can't change them as the process continues going.
Well, it's the thing. We brought this up even I think before the election, but it's like I mentioned with like my kids' soccer team, the teams they play against that like are the dirtiest players like on the field are the ones who, without fail, are the ones who are complaining to the refs about the other team all the time. And there is this false equivalency between the kind of stuff that happened to Lisa And there's not any other female candidates that ran that didn't get elected. So we can say her, it doesn't really we're not protecting anything. But like going after her employer or whatever, going after someone's job, equating that to like you running ads saying, "Hey, this politician supported this other politician when
here's a picture in front of a freaking sign,
right,
holding each other's arms,
standing next to him."
And I know for a fact that there are people, past aldermen, who believe, or at least they say they believe, to our faces, that those two things are equal, that those two things are the same thing.
Right.
And what like blows my mind is like the people that are elected, Mike, you're talking about them talking out of both sides of their mouth. Number one, like we've said this a bunch of times, they stayed silent during the election when they were winning off of the backs of this stuff. They still haven't come out and condemned any of it.
Never.
Because they benefited from it. There's a lawsuit right now around that stuff. Interestingly, the two candidates that got elected are attending all of the lawsuit hearings.
Yep.
They're not named in the lawsuit. They supposedly aren't involved. Ask yourself why they are showing up to hearings for a lawsuit that they aren't involved in. Allegedly, we're just here for entertainment. Don't take our word for it. Go do your own research. But that kind of stuff, but they're not. These are not characters on TV.
Right.
These are not lifetime politicians. These are real people. That's actually what blows my mind more than anything. I can't imagine doing that kind of stuff as like a human being.
Yep.
Like that's what I don't get. Is like I don't believe that any of these commissioners are like evil people or whatever you want to say. It's because they live in our town, our small town. Like they're real people. I just can't comprehend being okay.
Yeah.
Continually riding on the back of that kind of stuff.
It's opportunistic.
So you bring up a really good point too, Daniel, like that nobody has condemned this to date. So during the election, right after the charter, when I decided to run some ads against 3 candidates, I didn't tell anyone I was going to do it because I knew people would try to talk me out of it. But like I just went and did it. Everything I said in those ads, I stand behind. I think they were true.
I think they were true too. I mean, you didn't lie about any of it.
Yeah.
Outside of like just projecting too much of the connection to Haley.
Yeah, sure.
Like, I mean, you posted a picture of Wendy with Jimmy Alexander. Like,
yeah,
that was legit. You mentioned that Tommy is just the same of the old.
Yeah.
Like the dude literally started the town. The Haley thing, you did stretch a little bit by saying like she's way involved in that side. Like there was no physical proof, and to her credit, up until now, she does have a very, very consistent baseline.
Sure.
So she doesn't she's very consistent about like property rights only for country folk.
Yep.
And just very anti-density. But like outside of that, like I mean, Wendy was out there trying to burn you again after like 2 years of this.
Right.
And she's like, I can't believe how it made me feel. Like, dude, he posted a picture of you with the mayor.
It was your picture.
You projecting negativity on that is you, like, that's you.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't say anything about, like, she's going to,
also,
do whatever.
It
like
wasn't like I was
picture.
like the paparazzi and went and like took this picture with like 100-foot zoom.
It was on her Facebook. It was on her Facebook.
It literally was her Facebook picture.
She was proud of it until you made it into an ad.
Exactly.
Now she's not proud of it.
So the thing that my takeaway though in this last election is when I ran the ads, all 9 candidates that were running for a seat publicly came out and made posts like denouncing that.
Right.
It didn't matter, and some of them were my friends. Like they texted me and told me, "Hey, just FYI, I'm gonna denounce you. Like I don't agree with what you're doing."
Right.
Like yeah, like that hurt in a personal way, but like I also understood it. Like I'm a big boy. But the point is that like all 9 candidates came out and said, "We are not okay with this."
Right. I think it was even
this election though. Like stuff comes out about Lisa, people start crying foul, and nothing. Like crickets. Like nobody says anything. Well, doesn't matter if you're running or you're just a supporter of that. Nobody said this is wrong. And this doesn't belong in Nolensville politics.
It's very
Meanwhile,
wrong.
I got told time and time again, this doesn't belong in Nolensville politics.
Right. This is wrong to the this crosses so many different lines, and it crosses so many different like humane lines. Like she's getting the CEO of the Fortune 500 company she works for emailed. Like their email, like, and it's not like I believe stoutly. This is anonymous Proton emails.
Right.
Like this is untrackable anonymous emails that are getting sent to like her HR department, to her C-suite managers. Like this is not a like small town politics thing. This is a malicious, vengeful, like insane thing. And then I kind of want to I will mention this. So like I realized how opportunistic town politics were in the past. A couple of weeks ago, I had beers with somebody from the other side, and like this person's gonna know right away. I do have significant amount of respect for this person, and that the whole reason why I agreed to it. And the one thing, and we had a really good, it was like a 2.5 hour conversation, really good conversation, kind of like pointing me in the right way of how to get CD5 overlay thing kind of going. But in this conversation, this person said something that kind of resonated with me, and he mentioned you. And he's like, well, Chris Going is an I'm like, yeah, well, he's my like that's my buddy. Like I'm like, he's like, well, he shouldn't be on the podcast. Like you guys should have distance from him. I'm like, but that's not like, I mean, that's just who Chris is. Like Chris is my friend. Like I don't talk to Chris because he likes CD5. I talk to Chris because he's Chris. Like he can have the complete opposite opinion, and you've had complete opposite opinions. I mean, like one of the funnest times on our text chains is like when you and me disagree,
right?
And we just keep going and going and going. Everybody just rolls their eyes, and we just keep going and going. There's no winner. We both feel like we won, and we walk away like righteous, but we're both kind of wrong on that. So like I can't just come in and say, well, Chris Going did this thing that was perceived really, really bad and looked really, really bad, so therefore like he's a bad human being that I want to write off. Like no, like that, this is my friend. Like I've known him for forever. He can be wrong on things, I can disagree on things, and it can still be a functioning relationship. I don't have to drag him through the mud on social media to like make myself feel great.
Right.
Like what the hell's the point of that?
Right.
Well, the thing that like the reason why all of this stuff we're talking about matters so much to me is I just know behind the scenes, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, like we have tried so hard every step of the way to do the right thing by every measure you can have. The law, ethically, what you should or shouldn't do, every step of the way. We don't always get it right. I ran some ads when I was helping Better Nolensville that factually were incorrect and lumped people into a group, and I actually changed the ads. But here's how far I go. This is what bothers me so much. Every single time I have done something wrong through a comment on Facebook, through Better Nolensville, the Committee for a Better Nolensville, through charter change stuff, through this stuff, I don't edit my comments, just edit my comments. I edit my comments, and then I add at the bottom of my comment, in all caps, edit, : here's what I changed.
Yep.
Right.
I'm trying so hard to be transparent every step of the way that I want. There have been times when I've said something completely wrong in a comment, and someone on the other side has proven me wrong, and I have said, you're right, I'm going to leave my comment up to just show the transparency of the conversation that happened, and not delete this, not do the dirty delete.
Or block.
Right.
Or
someone has brought up a few times that the Committee for a Better Nolensville is the only PAC that Nolensville's ever had. Do you know why we're the only PAC that Nolensville's ever had?
Oh, I know.
Oh, tell me.
Is it because we followed the law when we had to follow? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're the only ones who actually obeyed the law. It's not because we're the only ones who did the things a PAC do.
We didn't just call ourselves a group.
Yeah.
And
of like-minded citizens
and
where everybody's
work really
welcome.
hard to figure out how to like not have to form a PAC. We were just like,
and
let's just do it.
And that was a really big conversation that we had, like with other, like obviously with the entire group of Better Nolensville. Like I was very I was the one trying to say, like, if there is a way to go outside of the PAC. And every research just came back like, no, like this is like this is the way you
have
do
to
it.
do this.
Yeah.
And it's like no one wanted to, because everybody understands the negativity around the word pack.
Right.
And no one wanted to. But if you're going to run something that you care deeply about and you don't want to get it hung up on a technicality, like you can't take that risk. If you care about something that deeply, you can't take the risk of like this not going through, or somebody getting fined or sued over a technicality. You just have to do everything by the book. And yeah, I remember that being a very, like, it wasn't a lighthearted decision. It wasn't like, oh, we got to do it, so we got to do it.
Right.
There was a lot of debate around the fact that we should or shouldn't.
So, full circle, because obviously we're talking about like the new zoning stuff and like how this all played out. I just feel like one thing that like really has stood out to me, and like I'm celebrating kind of in my own mind, is I think after this last election, even going into this last election, like some people on one side of the debate in town kind of thought like we were done, like that we were like resting on our laurels, like had kind of just like given up, like.
You mean we like the
like
Better
the group that was like
people,
the Better Nolensville like supporters, and like that kind of like infrastructure was gone. But I'm really proud at the fact that like, okay, like in some senses we all had kind of backed off. We like it was a big push to get the charter change done, and I think we're all tired and like just kind of wanted to like check out a little bit. But with this zoning debate, I think people on the anti-growth side, NAG and that group, like really thought like, oh, we're the louder voices, like we're the ones that like are coming out and we're gonna get this done. And
Right.
it was like, nope, like 30 days, like give us 30 days, and like we've got our group back, we've got supporters back, we've got a marketing effort back, we've got coordinated t-shirts, we've got messaging, we've got social media presence, like and I guess I'm saying that as kind of like a warning shot, in a sense that it's just like, don't think that like we aren't going to continue to fight for what we believe in.
Right.
Like the charter change was like step one, but that effort was always to continue to fight for like pushing Nolensville forward.
Right. For a better Nolensville.
Correct.
It was
we
very
did
literal.
that because like we all believe what our neighbors who live around us say, which is like they want a better Nolensville. They want all this stuff. They want what Nolensville can be if we keep pushing it forward. And so, I mean, like it or not, like we kind of took that upon our shoulders as a group.
That's
and said we're going to fight for that.
That's the thing. Like I'm okay being like, when I go like hang out with the neighbors at like the fire pit, whatever, and there's a bunch of guys around, I'm okay with being like the guy, like they're not making fun of me at all, but like they're like, oh, saw you on the podcast, whatever, that kind of stuff, And like I know I try my best to like not bring the town stuff up, but I'll get asked about it a lot.
Right.
And,
I know the feeling.
Right. And I'm okay with that, because I don't think that the people I love, and this is not like, I'm not trying to be a martyr or whatever. I don't like that mentality of like, I'm doing something so great for you. But I don't think most of my neighbors know how close we were to just having a bunch of strip malls all over this town.
Yep.
And having to live through the hell of, many of them probably would choose to leave.
Yeah.
And it's
very possible. Very probable.
And I have that thought in the middle of like hanging out at a fire pit with a bunch of guys that only are here because we all live in the same neighborhood.
Yep.
And it's like, man, like we won't all be here anymore if this government thing happens that you guys don't really care about, that you kind of laugh that I do care about so much and I won't shut up about. Like, it's because I know how dangerously close we are to something that will mess up this community we have. And it's worth protecting. One other thing about negotiation, and I don't want to get too deep into this, but like, one thing I was going to say in my public comments that I backed off and I left out of my public comments this last time at the BOC meeting, because I had the sense that things were going to go good for us, was you mentioned like a mandate and the whole referendum on growth thing. Was it the two candidates that are up there that are new? Neither of them ran on anything. That was my complaint the whole time, was that no one knew what they believed on anything. So anybody who thought it was quote unquote obvious that they were anti-growth or whatever you want to call what they were, if you think that their election was a referendum on growth, it's because you know secretly behind the scenes who's supporting them,
right.
And those people are against growth.
Yep.
And so if you think that their election was a referendum on growth, you're actually part of the problem.
Yeah.
You're not helping things. The other thing I want to quickly just touch on was the fact that in the midst of the discussion at the BOC meeting, the starting point for the village overlay was 16 units per acre, and Haley wanted it to be 15.
I know where you're going.
Wanted it to be 15, and Joel Miller, I believe, asked her for her rationale.
The Joel Miller versus Haley Gaelic thing is
that debate. That reminds, so good.
You know what that reminds me of? Remember, like on the very end of BOMA, it was Jimmy versus Wendy.
Yeah,
that was like that, almost that level. They were both like smiling through anger type of moments there.
But the idea, her explanation. Maybe we'll talk about this in the next episode because we're about to run out of time. But her explanation for 15 versus 16, her rationale was, I'm negotiating.
Yeah.
That was it. I'm playing the game.
She literally did say that. Because I just watched the meeting again today, and she literally said, well, I just want to negotiate. So that's my starting point.
You never take the first offer.
I would have doubled down like 15 and a half.
Yeah.
Like screw it, 15 and a half. Let's meet down the middle.
Yeah.
Shake on it right now.
Yeah, I think I do think that sets up another episode from a really good place because Jessica Salamita also entered that debate and challenged Joel on data.
Oh yes, that's a great.
And I think that's a great place for us to kick off the next episode.
Yeah, we'll do another episode on that. Thank you all for watching or listening. And as always, if you like this, share it with somebody on Facebook, especially helps us out. Leave a good review for us on the podcast platforms. That's awesome as well. But for now, we'll say bye. Thanks for watching and listening to Small Town Charm. Bye for now.
Later.